This is an interesting thing indeed. It's a Mercedes C300D. The D, of course, stands for diesel. However, unlike C300s of the past, this one uses a very boosty 4-cylinder engine. I know, like most cars these days, the engine gets smaller, whilst the car itself gets bigger and heavier. It does put out 245 horsepower and 500 newton meters of torque though, so that's certainly something. Thing is though, that's a lot to ask from a small diesel engine, so there are certainly some concerns. Let's have a look. My name's Tom, and you're watching Paragon Cars. Let's go. We're on TikTok, so if you want to see weekly updates, behind the scenes footage, and some funny stuff, click the link in the description below to follow us now. Now, that aforementioned power allows this near 1.8 tonne Cabriolet to get from 0 to 60 in just 6 seconds. Not bad for your weekend tourer. What happens once you're on the move though? Does it run out of puff? Let's have a look and do the 30 to 70 sprint. Well, colour me impressed. This C300D managed a very respectable time of 5.73 seconds. In fact, that's exactly the same time as a Porsche Macan S, a 6-cylinder with more power and more torque. Yes, it's 100 kilos heavier, but it does go to show the Merc is still very capable. Inside, you'll find a mild facelift version of the now previous generation Mercedes C-Class. And for me at least, this is a very nice blend of tech and physical switches. The digital cockpit is pin sharp, as is the infotainment. Climate controls are easily accessible, and whilst the steering wheel controls can be daunting to get used to at first, they quickly become second nature. Then, moving to the back, you'll find, well, not a lot. Out of all of the German cabriolets, the C-Class is one of the smallest in the back. Legroom is no bueno, and headroom is also on the tighter side. Anything for those sexy lines, eh? The boot tells a similar story, just not quite as bad. With the roof down, you'll have a bit more room, say enough for a small trip to the shops. With the roof up though, and the seats down, you can actually fit most things you'd need in there. Sets of golf clubs, a bike, a push, and just about a pram. Depends on the size though, really. Anyway, now we know all that, let's head out onto the road and see if this is a Cabriolet or a Fabriolet. Brilliant. This is the first convertible I've driven in a while, and for good reason, because I hate them. Well, I don't actually hate them, but I would just prefer a coupe because, you know, when you chop a car's roof off and then replace it with a load of bits, you tend to get a lot of squeaking, a lot of rattling. It's just not that nice. But, you know, why do you buy a car like this? Well, it's more about the destination and, you know, just the pleasure of driving itself rather than having actual fun, you know, drifting around corners and finding the best road. It's more about going to a nice pub on the weekend with the top down. And for that kind of thing, a car like this is perfect. You know, going over the bumps back there, it's very smooth. The cabin's nice and quiet. And yeah, it's just, you know, it just does everything you want it to do. You got things like hill hold assist, so you come to a stop, you can take your foot off the brake. Steering's nice and light in comfort mode. There's a bit of feel there actually, it's not totally inert. Yeah, it's still a C-Class at the end of the day. It's still a nice car to drive. But yeah, it really is more about where you're going rather than, you know, the actual fun of driving. But I'm going to see how capable it is, how it differs from something like a C-Class coupe. We did actually review a petrol-powered C300 a couple of weeks ago. That was a coupe. So if you want to go and see that review, I'll put a link in the top right-hand corner there. So this is kind of almost going to be like a comparison video, I suppose. You know, just see how this diesel version does in comparison to the C300 petrol. Because power-wise, they're actually fairly similar. This has obviously got quite a bit more torque, so it should be a bit nicer to drive, if anything. Should just give you a nice low-down punch. Anyway, in terms of parking, this is a Premium Plus car, so you get reverse camera with lines telling you where you're going to go. Nice overhead view. It's got side parking sensors as well, which are very preemptively warning me that I'm way too close to another car. Steering lock is okay, but as you can see, it could be better, as I'm having to go back out of the space again. Fundamentally fairly easy car to park though, and the C-Class is about the right size if you're driving in a city. It's not too small, not too big. One thing I love is the resolution of those. One thing I love is the resolution of those displays as well. They're really clear, really crisp, and the refresh rate is good. Getting out of the car, even though it's a coupe, you can see it's fairly easy. Nothing really to complain about. That's where the E-Class was actually pretty hard to get out of, is in tighter spaces. So if you're driving this around a city with the top down a lot, yeah, you might want to go for the C-Class instead of the E-Class. Anyway, let's see what the performance of this engine is like. I'm quite interested to see what it's like, actually, in terms of drivability. So, half throttle out of a junction, bit of wheel spin from the rear. It's got plenty of grunt, actually. I mean, on paper, you know, you sort of look at it and you go, that's a lot of torque, quite a lot of power, especially for a 2-litre diesel. But then it's like, it's a 2-litre engine still, so surely it can't be as good as like the equivalent 3-litre. And although it doesn't sound like a 3-litre engine, it does kind of perform like one, you know. And it's fairly smooth for a 4-cylinder. And obviously the main advantage with a 2-litre engine is, theoretically, your miles per gallon should be quite a bit higher. So we're going to reset our trip computer now. And we should at least get 57 miles per gallon, because that's what Mercedes say it'll get on the combined cycle. On the extra urban cycle, e.g. driving on the motorway at 60 miles an hour, you're going to get well above 60 according to them. So hopefully we can get at least at least 57 miles per gallon. But as usual, before we do that, let's take it to a roundabout and see how this differs from the coupe in terms of handling. Okay, in Sports Plus, ESP off. We don't need any of that ridiculous assistance stuff, do we? And I'm going to go for a manual gearbox, see how this 9-speed reacts. It's a fairly good gearbox, this, actually. It's not quite as sharp as the ZF 8-speed, but it is good. This diesel revs out quite freely as well, actually. And of course, so even though it's a convertible, you can still have a bit of fun. And look at how it revs out. Look, that's 4,000, still pulling. Oh, it shifts up for you. But it shifted at like 4,800, which is pretty good for a diesel. One thing you'll notice though is that it kind of reins you in a little bit sooner than the coupe does, because there's obviously a lot more weight just all around the car. It doesn't really want you to slide it about too much, because once you're beyond the limits of grip, those tyres are kind of like fighting for their lives in the corners. Already I can tell it's going to be a car you can, you know, get a bit of a move on in, but you don't really want to push it too far. You know, like if you turn the ESC all the way off in this thing, I'm not sure you can actually. There's got to be a way to turn it all the way off. There'll be a fuse somewhere. But yeah, if you turn it all the way off, you know, you would reach the limits of the chassis very quickly. Anyway, enough waffle. Let's get on the motorway and see if we can get 57 miles per gallon. Okay, coming onto the motorway in eco mode as well, so it kind of deadens the throttle a bit. Front end is really nice on these, actually. It's quite nice positive turn in. Someone's broken down. Oh dear. And even though it's a 2-litre engine, it does have that nice low-down grunt that a 3-litre would have. Like 1500 RPM, just tickle the throttle. And it just builds up speed nice and quickly. And you whack the cruise control on, chill out. In terms of sound deadening, you do notice it's a bit noisier than the coupe, like probably 5 to 10%. But it is still a C-Class, so it's not like you're driving a sort of clapped out Ford Fiesta. So yeah, I mean, it's really not that bad. It's chilled out. Now, I did have the roof off earlier, and there is a wind deflector in this thing. And on the motorway, it is not brilliant, I will say that. And honestly, none of the German coupes are, unless it's specifically designed from the get-go to be a convertible, something like a Jaguar F-Type. or like a Porsche Targa, those are just like smoother. You don't get that weird buffeting in the rear of the car then, especially the F-Type, because you've got no rear seats. The air just kind of goes straight over you, whereas in these cars, like even the Audi A5 convertible and the BMW 4 Series convertible as well, they all have that same issue where they're like putting in wind deflectors to like combat the issue, and they only work up until a certain speed, and then you just kind of get buffeting constantly. So if you are driving this thing on the motorway, you want to sit at like 65 miles an hour if you've got the roof down. Don't really want to go much quicker than that. In terms of visibility, it's not bad. View out the sides is good. Same as the coupe, obviously. No B-pillars, so you can check in your blind spot really easily. Wing mirrors are a good size. The only view that is a bit compromised is the view out the back. You've got this like really zoomed in rear view mirror, and the windscreen is quite small as well, so it's quite hard to see what's behind you. But yeah, if you've got the roof up, it's a nice cruiser. Roof down, for back roads it's good. Wouldn't want to do a long journey on the motorway with the roof down though. Anyway, we're going to do 16 miles on the motorway now. Let's see what kind of MPG we can get on this thing. Well, we got stuck in traffic for most of that, so there was no point really finishing the test. However, we still managed 45 or 46.3 miles per gallon, which is actually not that bad when, all things are considered. We were sitting at like 30 to 40 miles an hour for that whole point on the M25. So yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that you'd get like at least 55, 57 miles per gallon on a longer journey. And that's where that 2-litre engine is pretty good. Does just kind of make sense then, if you're doing a lot more miles, it's a bit cheaper to run than the 3-litre equivalent. Anyway, let's go see how fun this Mercedes C300D is on a B road. Okay, traction off, in Sports Plus. Let's go for manual gears, or as manual as it gets. Still upshifts for you. I do like the turn-in of C-classes. They have really nice positive steering. Let's give it some. Look at that torque. Yeah, see what I mean? It doesn't really let you brake traction at the rear. Bit of understeer. It just reins you in, really. For a 2-litre engine, it has a lot of punch, though. I'll give it that. And for the type of person that's going to be driving this car, they don't really want to have the car moving around too much. I've got the traction control off, and it's still really holding me back. Can you feel the weight under brakes? Oh yes, yes, you can definitely feel the extra bit of weight under brakes. Brakes are good though. They have a really nice initial bite point, and yeah, they do a good job. I think they would fade quite quickly though if you really lent on them for too long. But it's the steering that's the highlight of this thing. It makes the car enjoyable without having to like really rag it round corners. It's just kind of pleasant. Let's see how it holds the road here. It's okay. Front wash is wide. It's just the problem with convertibles. They feel a bit soggy when you compare them to their coupe counterparts. Like that C300 felt really tight around the corners, whereas this is just a bit like kind of going all over the place. Yeah, brakes are still holding up well. I'll come into a corner slower and then do it. Yeah, you can get it to rotate a bit. But as you can hear, the tyres are really fighting for their lives. Yeah, they're really trying to hold on at this point. One thing I love about diesels is that low down grunt, like 2,500, put your foot down, just look at that. And you know what, it really starts pulling after about 3.5. Like you really feel the boost come on then. Similar to a BMW 335D in that regard. Well, I mean, it's not really similar. That engine in that thing is an absolute monster. This is like a mini version. But you can chuck this thing about. In terms of feel, there's not a huge amount of it. That was solid lane discipline by that lorry then. Got some interesting cars around today. We have a van with just a rim on the back. But yeah, there's actually, you know, it kind of revs out a bit like a petrol. Like 3,000 RPM, you really feel the boost come on. It's got a nice power band actually. So yeah, for getting a move on some fast roads, it's pretty good. You know, you're not going to get bored behind the wheel. And that's what it's about really. It's like open top cruising, just like kind of relaxing, chilling out. And it does that very well. So driving around little villages and stuff, and then you get on a little open B road, you can have a, you know, put your foot down for a bit. It's not about going around corners at 10 tenths all the time. It's a very good 8 tenths car. Talking about little B roads, let's go to one now and see what it's like. I might even put the roof down actually, and hopefully there's not too much wind noise. We'll see. Okay, let's see what it's like with the roof up. I'm guessing over bumps it's going to feel a bit soggy. I keep thinking because it's a diesel I need to ride that low down torque, but you really don't. Like rev it out. Ooh, nice. Gear shifts give you a bit of a punch in the back as well, which is good. That's the one noise I don't like hearing. Oh yes, bit of weight there. But yeah, it kind of deals with the bumps quite well actually. Not that bad, I have to say. Right, let's get the roof off. Okay, got the roof off. Can we make 60 before the corner? Yes, we can. Does handle fairly well. Even with the roof down. I don't think you guys can hear me though. Bit of extra weight there. Slow down. I've got the wind deflector up, but there is quite a bit of buffeting. Well, not buffeting, just airflow coming into the cabin. Even with the windows up and the wind deflector up, yeah, not brilliant. So, just because you probably can't hear me, I'm going to put the roof back up. And how fast can I go actually? 18 miles an hour. Seems to do it above 20 miles an hour, that's pretty good. Remember that 4 Series Grand Coupe with a metal roof could only do it up until like 11 miles an hour, which is a bit crap. It's the advantage of a true soft top. You can go quite a bit quicker with the roof moving. Right, one more time. Let's see what this thing is like. I'm liking the power band. Feels very nippy. Can I place it where I want to on the road? Almost. Not quite as good as a BMW. But yeah, I mean it's not. So yeah, I can still have a little bit of fun with it. If you want to be a hooligan, you can, but it reins you in a lot quicker than the coupe does. Whilst it is a bit heavier, it's not crazy bad. It's not like older convertibles where it was like half a ton heavier. Let's give it another sort of launch. So yeah, it shifts at like 4,600. That's not bad. isn't slow. That's where you feel a bit of the extra weight. It deals with bumps well though. Not bad at all. It's not making me giddy, but it's nice. Would I pick this over something like a C300 petrol convertible though? Let me have a think about it and come back to you. Well, if I needed a car to efficiently and comfortably get me to the south of France in, this Mercedes C300D is a cracking bit of kit. It's got plenty of shove, isn't that boring, and most importantly, is just relaxing. And whilst I love an adrenaline rush, many people do just want comfort and style in their convertibles. And I have to say, Mercedes really nailed it with this one. My only real concern is how reliable that very boosty engine is going to be down the line. I suppose only time will tell. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, give it a like, and why not subscribe, as not only can you see more content like this, you can see everything we have for sale, which does actually include this Mercedes C300D. Anyway, my name's Tom, and you've been watching Paragon Cars. I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.